Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever the hell you are, fellow internet denzians. Oh, good Lord, thank God for good coffee. I am Mike Elsmore, and this is the Tech Off Topic podcast. Hello and welcome to joining us. Today, we are going to have somebody on who is the root cause of a lot of the evil that I cause to the world. Between him and a gentleman called Robin Smith, I believe that we can blame this podcast, my addiction to coffee, and quite a few other things on. So I'm just going to drag him in and let him introduce himself. Say hello.
Hello. How you doing? I'm Simon. I don't think it's fair to blame me for you.
No. You can blame me for some of the more apparent, globally accessible parts of me.
Yeah.
You're the person who gave me a job that literally put me on stage.
Yeah, that was crazy. Why would I do that?
Especially as, if I remember correctly, my interview, I rocked up in shorts and a t-shirt straight from your job in Bath.
Yeah, possibly. But I was probably in shorts and a t-shirt at the time, so it sort of...
was weird it's like, I feel like I'm in somebody's lounge, but this is an office.
Yeah, that was an interesting office. Yeah, I'm Simon. I am on Twitter at DRSM79. I should have put that in my thing, but I didn't think of that. I work in Bristol for a company called EDB, which does interesting things with Postgres. And then prior to that, I was at Cloudant, which is what this t-shirt is. Mike was just giving me grief for it being 7 years old, but it's been washed, so what's the big deal?
I appreciate the fact it's a 7-year-old one. It's the correct one to exist. It's just, I don't have one of those. I got rid of mine about 4 years ago.
Yeah, I have this sort of kind of t-shirt tectonics. So t-shirts I've got two drawers of t-shirts, and they kind of gradually kind of weave around. Every so often, there's one from my teenage years kind of gets to the surface, and I'm like, cool, I'll wear that one again. So.
Please tell me that's a Pearl Jam or Portishead t-shirt or some form of weird street art one.
Rage Against the Machine is the one that I wear most, actually. I got when I was about at Reading 95, 96. Can't remember which year they played, but yeah, very good.
Getting you're older than me.
I'm well old. Look at my beard.
True, but I'm massively impressed with A, the beard, and B, the huge grey streak that is
the badger.
It works.
Yeah,
considering my grey streak is up in my temple, and it just makes me look like I'm 60.
Yeah, I've got a few coming in the top bit as well, but it's not so bad.
The wild mane.
Yeah.
I think is it the hair is the reason why you got the nickname Bill Bailey of databases? Was it 2014 that was given to you?
We were doing an excellent.
I think it was a White October event, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was All Your Base, which sadly they don't do anymore because they were brilliant. We did All Your Base, and I was talking about CouchDB, which is what we did at Cloudant. And I don't normally stand still that much, especially when I'm talking. So I don't know what happened on the guy doing the video at the back of the hall. He had a fixed camera, and I was just going in and out of shot all the time. so I completely ruined his day, and was kind of bouncing around and being a little bit animated and a bit silly, and trying to make sort of funny jokes about how CouchDB was. What was it? CouchDB is. I had a t-shirt with a Venn diagram on, and it was a duck on one side, and what was the other animal? A beaver on the other, and then a duck-billed platypus in the middle. And I was like, so CouchDB is a duck-billed platypus of a database because it's a web server, and it's also a document database, and you can do these kind of interesting things as a result. And I was just sort of being silly and bouncing about a bit too much, probably. And then this person came up to me and said, yeah, we decided that you're the Bill Bailey of databases. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's fun. I like that. So that kind of stuck.
The horrible thing is you still work in databases and you still have instruments around you.
Yeah. Sadly, I haven't got one of those horn, he's got that horn keyboard. That's really cool. I'd like one of those, but they take up quite a lot of room. I haven't got room for one.
Yeah, you also have two small children. I can't imagine anything more annoying than two kids just discovering that there's horns.
Yeah. When I used to cycle into work, I had a kind of horn on my bike, and then it kind of perished. It kind of it went off. So that's gone in the bin, unfortunately. But I get back on that.
I can only imagine that's a good thing.
Yeah, I'd get home from work and the kid's like, "Shut up." My wife would be like, "They're just gone to bed, please." Like, but it's funny.
It's funny until it's not.
Yeah, until they wake up. But yeah, I do have like kind of
God
instead of instead of horns and stuff. Yeah, that's me. Is that enough an introduction? Wouldn't make myself sound silly.
Well, yes, but I am going to ask. There is the natural thing to ask because not many people, not everybody's going to know this who knows you from giving talks in the past, etc. Because I've always like your career path has been a weird one.
Who doesn't have a weird career path? Like, really? I mean, it's not that many people.
Well, mine's relatively normal. On paper, it looks normal.
Yeah, I was going to say on paper.
But no, yours is kind of weird, and so is most of the upper echelon of people who started with Cloudant, to be brutally honest.
Yeah. So Cloudant was kind of a crew. I met one of the founders, Mike Miller, when I was working at CERN and at Bristol University. So I did a physics degree and then came to Bristol and did a PhD in particle physics and did stuff at CERN. And then the team that I ran in Geneva with a guy from Chicago called Dave. Hello, Dave. We wrote sort of data management and workflow management software for one of the LHC experiments called CMS, which is unfortunate because everyone goes, "You work on CMS," and it's like, what one is it? Django? No. This one's like this big, and you can drive a bus through the middle of it, kind of thing. Oh, one of those CMS. But yeah, we did. So we wrote, like me and my team wrote the software that Mike Miller's team ran, and then he was at MIT and left to do Cloudant with some of his buddies from MIT, and then it wasn't long after my daughter was born, I got an email from him saying like, "We're busier than we can handle, and if you're ever interested in a job, let me know." And I was like, "Actually, everything's already up in the air. Like, just had a kid and stuff, and I kind of was getting to a point in the university where I was like, well, I don't really want to be a lecturer. I'm not very good at lecturing. I try not to do it, and that kind of limits what
you have children. It's going to be normal."
Yeah, well, yeah, that's different kind of lecturing. But yeah, so it was kind of one of those sort of moments where kind of stars aligned a bit, I guess, and yeah, like why not do it, kind of thing, and doing Cloudant, and the rest is history, basically.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, what you can take away from this is you too can make a career out of writing really shit Python. I've seen some of the earlier code that was part of the tooling for Cloudant. The Python there being written between, about 5 people? You could definitely tell it was, we'll put this together. This isn't going to go into production. Oh, shit, it's in production.
Some of it was, yeah. Some of it got quite neat. It's one of those things where it's that interesting thing with startups, right? Like, there's a book which I've got somewhere over on my shelf over there called like in the Spirit of a New Machine or something like that. It's this Pulitzer Prize winning book from the late 70s, early 80s about the development of an early computer, and it's sort of tracking this company that doesn't exist but at the time was worth silly amounts of money. And there's one of the people in there. It's a true story. I'll send you the link. It's a good book. It's short as well, so you'll be fine. One of the characters in there is like saying, not everything worth doing is worth doing well. And there's a balancing act, right? Like you can, and Bezos talks about it a bit as well, like you've got to make a decision with 60% of the information that you'd like to have, right?
Oh, the thing that's part of Bezos's innovation talk thing, where it's
if you wait until you've got everything perfect, you've missed the boat, kind of thing. And it's a tricky balance to maintain, and I've learned from mistakes and learned from and things that have been good, like that way is a good way of doing it and that way is a bad way of doing it, kind of thing. And it's definitely a tricky one, because it's one of those things where it is an experience question, as opposed to you can't kind of go, oh, here's a unit test, that one should, or here's a nice metric I can put in and say, if this is greater than 7, then we're good. You've just got to kind of develop a bit of a gut feel for it. And yeah, there's certainly, like, quite often there's sort of, I quite often like write little silly bits of Python, or other languages, mainly Python, to just sort of automate bits of my day job that I find boring. and like, so when I was at IBM, we moved into this nice new office, and it was a lab, but we let other IBM folk use it as a sort of drop-in space. And this wasn't the one that you saw. This was the new one that had a moss wall. Very cool, very cool, and like proper uppy downy desks and good seats and stuff.
Wow, not hot desks that felt like weird cubicles from the 80s.
No, it was weird cubicles from the 2020s. Yeah, had a proper little phone booth. It was actually really, really cool, really, really nice office. Anyway, and so we wanted to have a way of having people ask to have access, because we controlled the access. Mm-hmm. And so we made them file GitHub tickets, because I figured, like, it's a lab. If you don't know how to file a GitHub ticket, you probably shouldn't come in. And actually, the sort of salespeople kind of are all actually pretty savvy and were able to work it out. But then it kind of became a chore, because like suddenly like 50 people wanted access or whatever. So I spent like a Friday morning drinking coffee and writing a little bot that kind of went out and got it and sent the emails to the right people when the ticket got stated of approved or what have you. It just sort of meant that something that had been taking some people kind of quite a bit of time chasing around just became me running a script once a week, which is nice. It's a good thing. People can then go and think about something more interesting than that.
Have you got around to doing stuff like that for EDB? Now, here's the question. Is it EDB or Enterprise DB? Because I've always been confused by which one I'm meant to call it.
I think it's Enterprise DB, but that's quite a mouthful, so everyone just calls it EDB.
It's quite a mouthful, and it also doesn't have this like innovation tech feel. Enterprise.
Yeah. There is probably some brand guidance that I haven't fully absorbed yet that will tell me that it's definitely Enterprise DB. But yeah, it's cool. It's nice. I joined there in November. It's going well. It's interesting stuff. Good team. Yeah.
To be fair, you've had quite a lot of experience with the Postgres world as well. After weren't you part of the crew that analyzed and went through Compose.io when it was being bought into the IBM?
Yeah, we did stuff with Compose. I was on did some of the diligence for that, and then toward the end of my time at IBM, I was kind of helping run that team as well. They're actually kind of they're great. They're pretty independent and just kind of help them clear the path, kind of thing. But yeah, and Postgres is cool. Actually, I think it was at that All Your Base they announced the first like JSON support in Postgres. I think it was that one. It was either that one or the year after. And that was really cool. Like here's a SQL DB with actually kind of first class JSON in, and they'd done it quite neatly, I thought, at the time. I haven't played around with it that much since. I need to get dust off my Postgres. I realized the first time I used Postgres actually was when I was working at the university, and there was some storage management software that we had to use called Dcache. I think made in Daisy in Hamburg, the synchrotron lab over there, and that was backed by Postgres. And I remember it, like installing it, and it took about a week to install the stupid. Like it was quite painful. Like this was sort of, I mean, I remember when I started my PhD, I got a laptop and I wanted to put Linux on it. I wanted to have, I think it's Red Hat 6, might have been. And getting Red Hat 6 to talk to the Wi-Fi card was literally a week of recompiling kernels. It's just insane. And then I went to a conference where, like, in the swag bag was a Linux compatible Wi-Fi card that just plugged in and was perfect. So yeah, it's those sorts of things where you realize that you're old, but B, you realize how far like technology's come. Like, if you think about, like, you've got in your pocket more power than the laptop that I did my PhD on. Probably it's kind of nuts, right?
Isn't the usual one there's more power in your pocket than sent the first man to the moon?
There's more power in a calculator than sent a man to the moon. Like, a modern calculator is it's huge.
True, but I'm still a dummy, and the best thing I can do on a calculator is spell boobs. I can't even get to boobies.
Or boobless. Yeah. 15 off, that's all. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like, I feel like I turned 40, not last December before, and I've sort of, definitely kind of felt a little bit old. Not in a bad way. Like, I quite enjoy it, actually, but it sort of makes you sort of reflect a bit and kind of like things like I've been around and seen 2 hype cycles of the web kind of thing. Like I was making web pages in like 94, 5.
But you were an academic during the first .com boom period.
Yeah, but I was exactly. But I was also when I was doing my PhD, we had folk who were at Babar, which is in Slack in Stanford, and so I went over to Slack for a bit and was there for a few weeks and stayed with them. So I was there, like, that would have been 2003. And so, like, that was at the end of the pop. That was after the pop kind of thing.
Mm.
And so you'd go out and it was just bizarre, like, sort of walking around in Palo Alto and sort of going into this very swanky, quite expensive restaurant that you could get like a really nice meal and a really nice bottle of wine for not much money, because they were just sort of trying to stay open, basically. And they'd also had a bumper crop of wine the year before. So it was one of those, like, it was a good time to be there, but it was really it was just really strange. And then, like, we went out in we were there over Halloween and went out in the Castro of San Fran, and like, just huge, like, insane Halloween party, like, kind of people on stilts, kind of 9 foot high and full drag, and kind of
sounds like Mardi Gras with more sparkle.
Yeah, and pumpkin heads. But it was cool, and I think that was like the last or the year after that they didn't do it anymore because of sort of crime and what have you. But it's interesting, like, kind of, I'm not sure I'd want to go to San Fran at the moment. Like, it sort of sounds a bit kind of, I don't know. You read some things, it sort of sounds like some kind of dystopian hellscape, and other things kind of, like, it's quite nice. So.
I think if I was to go there for anything other than being a tourist, it's a dystopian hellscape.
Yeah, right.
Going there being a tourist,
scary.
Alcatraz, Golden Gate Bridge, fantastic. Moving on.
Yeah. It's strange because it was cool when I was there. Like, it was really nice, and it had a good kind of vibe about it and stuff. And then same
you
with,
were
like,
there before the homeless problem was a problem.
Right, yeah, it's it's not good. It's not a nice. It's one of those things where, like, one of the things I've been thinking about a little bit recently is sort of money and how weird money is. Like, if you think about money a little bit, it's kind of like, that's really strange, right? Like, why is it that I can exchange value, and like, how do I value something? Like, you get people that are kind of on TV who are getting paid. I don't know. If I was way more famous, you'd be paying me thousands of pounds to talk to me right now, right? And I wouldn't be saying anything different, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it'd be exactly the same words falling out of my beardy face, but you would be paying me money for it. Like, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah,
and things like the sort of all the crypto stuff sort of makes it kind of. It kind of highlights how weird money is, I think.
Well, I actually had a thought the other day, which may, after watching a ridiculous amount of YouTube, I may add, very late at night.
Too much coffee.
No comment, which I'm still blaming you for, because those two pots that you see be in the office are the reason I like black coffee now.
Yeah, it's the way to go. It's the way to go.
Yeah, your fault.
When I started EDB, they gave us. I got like a nice EDB backpack for that stuff, and then I got a nice kind of I forget the name, like coffee thing. And I thought, oh great, I'm going to fill this up in the morning, and I'll have that by the side of my desk, and it's fantastic. It keeps the heat in the.
Would it be a mug by any chance?
A what? Sorry,
a Yeti mug,
big
thermos one which lasts forever.
Yeah, epic. Not product placement or anything. Yeah, so I've got this. Other brands are available. Yeti mug, and so I had this coffee, and I normally have I try and have one coffee a day now, right? Because if I have a coffee in the afternoon, it's game over, and I'm going to be up until 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm that old. I can't have coffee in the afternoon.
He says, just finishing off a carafe of Chemex.
So I had this coffee sort of sitting there, and I just sort of sip away at it, and for all morning it would be too hot to drink because it's just kept its heat because these Yetis are so good. And so and I kind of just realized that after the end of my first week I had a massive coffee hangover, and I was like completely wired. And I was like, I need to not do that. I need to be a bit more careful around my coffee intake.
Either leave the lid off or use a normal mug.
Yeah, right, exactly. I have it in normal mug. First part of the day, kickstart the brain, and then I might have one in the late morning. I try not to.
Well, my random thought was the fact that most currencies are gold standard backed.
Not anymore.
Not anymore, but that's where they all started. Yep. So the biggest currency for trade in the world, the US dollar, in the 1970s was removed from the gold standard.
Yep.
That means ignoring cryptocurrency, that means for 50 years we have been trading on invisible money that has no real value other than what other people put onto it.
Yeah, but I mean, gold has some practical application and stuff. But makes
really good teeth.
Yeah, and spaceships and stuff. But and it's rare. But it's interesting that rarity is an interesting thing, right? My son's really into bird watching and it's that sort of thing. And we went out for a little walk before lunch, and it's all pigeons and blue tits and wagtails and stuff. And then I saw a kingfisher, and kingfishers are a very beautiful bird. You don't see them very often, although there's a river down there that you kind of can, if you sort of sat still for long enough, you'd see one every day kind of thing. But they're rare enough that it's kind of exciting to see a kingfisher. But I only saw one wagtail, and I only saw one blue tit, and I only saw one kingfisher. But the kingfisher is the one that I'm excited about. And I think there's a human thing about rarity that's kind of, I don't know, maybe there's certain things I think we've perhaps been wired into our brains when we were sort of cavemen and women that are now kind of causing us problems because we don't have to worry about whether a Yeti is going to eat us. We're going to drink out of a Yeti instead.
Right, I'm going to segue from that weirdness. Right, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this podcast,
made up money. It is weird that we have made up money, and there's a brilliant Pratchett book about it. The whole sort of book about it is
starring. It's Von Moist is the main character of it. I can't remember the name of the book. It's not Going Postal. It's
the other one. Yeah.
Even though in Going Postal he did make money with stamps, which is essentially printing money. That was a good one. Well, they're all good, aren't they? Let's be honest. It's Pratchett. They're all pretty much good. Like my Wi-Fi is Turtle Madness for a reason.
I still use the old Cloudant Wi-Fi code password. I think it's brilliant. That's Mike Rhodes' great idea.
Oh, Mr. Rhodes, somebody who won the most dry sense of humor and also ridiculously smart, but doesn't make me feel dumb about it, which is great.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? Do you know what the book about money that Pratchett wrote is called? Making Money. We should have guessed that one, really, shouldn't we?
It just feels a little bit too on the head for it, but yeah. All right, I'm going to segue away from the money conversation because we're going to end up back on that in a little bit. But it's more, for ladies and gentlemen listening to this podcast without the video stream, you may have noticed behind Simon, and I'm going to say it, there is a buck ton of loose cables. No, that isn't bad cable management. That is on the left-hand side, a synthesizer. Well, no, many synthesizers, mucho synthesizers, all glued together. Because Simon happens to be what I would like to call a musician for random music. Because you also play guitar, if I remember correctly. So, like, you are a traditional musician, but then you like gluing all this crap with signal noise.
The guitars are there behind the theremin.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, they're cool. Like, this is one of my little synthesizers made in an IKEA box.
Oh god, yes, I forgot. The Clown was also the place I learnt about IKEA hacking, how you make server racks using tables.
Yeah, I didn't make most of these ones. I made this one, well, from a kit, and I made these two from kits, and then these ones are professionally built. I would show you the soldering on the back, but it's not brilliant. But yeah, cool.
But so how the hell does one get it? Because, like, all right, traditional instruments, piano, guitar, even a theremin, they make
traditional instruments like a theremin. Yeah,
it's you know it's something that you can write. Yeah, you read and write music for it in a traditional way. I have seen the fact there are tab lists for theremins.
Yeah.
How the hell do you get from that? Because I'm pretty sure you started on guitar as a teenager. How the hell do you get to a synthesizer, which is essentially, I'm just going to make a random signal and then monkey around with it until other signals happen?
It's not that different to a guitar. Come on. No, I started on a saxophone, actually. I have a saxophone somewhere under there as well. Yeah, so
did not realize you were a brass player.
Yeah, did well, woodwind, actually, dear boy. But yeah, so I did sax, then did guitar, got into sort of guitar music when I was a teen, obviously, and grew my hair long and what have you, and bought a Rage Against the Machine t-shirt. And then, I was watching, so I'm a big fan of Portishead. I think they're a great band. And must have been about 6 years ago or so, maybe a bit longer. There was a video. Adrian Utley, who's the guitarist of Portishead, he's also super into synthesizers. His studio is this amazing room. I've not been there, but I've seen photos. And there's a video of him playing around with one of these. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
It's called a Mini Brute. So that grey one there. And it was just cool, and some fun sounds were coming out of it, and I thought I'm going to get one of those because they're not that expensive, and they're interesting. And I was also listening to there's an album called Drock, which was music by Jeff Barrow, who's also in Portishead, that they did for the Dread film, and then I think somewhere between the studio and the director and Jeff Barrow, they decided that he wouldn't do the soundtrack kind of thing, and they had a more kind of traditional soundtrack put in, but they released it as an album, and it's really good. And I recommend you go and listen to it. So I was listening to that kind of electronic, and I've always been into sort of, like when I was a teenager, DJ Shadow's Introducing came out, and that's a fantastic album. And me and my friends would sort of make music on computers and do sort of sequencing and beats and stuff like that. So I've always kind of had that interest. And then that was sort of, if it's good enough for Adrian Utley, it's good enough for me kind of thing. And I got that, and then that you kind of get one, and it's like, well, I need another one because they're monophonics. They can only play one note at a time, so you want a second one to do. And then you kind of start, and then as you start getting into it, you kind of realise that the sort of modular stuff, so the sort of things in IKEA boxes, that's where the fun bit is, because that's where you can do really weird stuff, right? Like I've got there's a module I've got called Sloths, which is 3 very, very slow LFOs, and they follow a chaotic attractor. So if you they've got 3 outputs, and if you plot the X and the Y, you can watch it follow a Lorentz attractor, which is something I was fascinated with as a team. There's a book called Chaos by a guy called James Gleek, and in there he's talking about analog computers. And if you think about it, like a synthesizer is kind of an analog computer, right? It's solving an equation over time, kind of thing. And so yeah, you kind of realize that if you want to do sort of really interesting stuff, like you can go a long way with just one of them and a delay pedal. But yeah, you start kind of, you want to have some more things, and it's one of those things where you get one and then you go, oh, I need another, and then I want that bit there, and I want a sequencer, and if I'm gonna have a sequencer I need to have a clock, and then it just kind of starts sort of snowballing, and then you end up
How many of those are actually analog signal generation rather than digital? Because I know you've got, like, some of the keyboard ones are digital signal generation.
Yeah, you sort of, so like the big boy there.
Yeah,
that's a Matrix Brute. That's badass. That's digital control of analog signals. So you can sort of, so the voltage that goes into the pitch is the thing, but the actual sound and all the filters are analog and stuff. In that stuff, most of that is analog. Apart from things, there's some that sort of a sampler sort of things. They read off SD cards and stuff. So obviously that's digital. And there are some that are deliberately digital because you want that kind of sound. And then quite a few control-y ones, like so this is my first rack. Very good. You can't get them anymore, but you need a small rack first. Pittsburgh did a good one. But yeah, this guy here, Metropolis. I see there. That's a very cool sequencer. That's very digital, obviously. Yeah, that guy's a sort of digital grainy thing. That guy's, this is cool. It's called Data Bender, and it emulates the sound of like a scratch CD or like bit crushing and that kind of stuff. So you can kind of have a nice kind of ambient sound, and then you can stick it through there, and it sounds terrible at the end of it. It's quite fun.
Okay, I've got a question for you then, based upon this. Because you're one of the people who actually got me into Spotify to begin with. Because before I joined Cloudant, I was a free Spotify user, and then I was introduced to the Cloudant Bristol playlist, and you could only monkey around with that if you had a premium membership at the time, because that's how Spotify worked.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the Spotify hi-fi stuff? Because as far as as far as I can tell, it's just Tidal but Spotify.
Oh, I've got my son coming in. Kind of. This is the boy. He's got a Yoda t-shirt on, but you can see his ear there.
You can see the ears. That's all you need.
He doesn't being on camera, but he also, he always wants to come and say hello, but then doesn't want to actually be on camera. Makes for great meeting. It's good that he's got clothes on. He's and one of those IKEA oh,
we appear to be having a wee bit of signal stuff. Are we good? I think we're good.
But I know what your face looks like. There we go. That's better. What was I saying? Yeah, we've got one of those Sonos things. That's cool. Spotify's good for like kind of trawling through music, and that convenience piece is good. I have got underneath my synthesizer, there's loads of vinyl, which never gets played, because I have it. And one day, when my kids are older, I tend to put my record player downstairs where I can sit and in. At the moment, it would just get covered in jam or petty fill.
So as somebody who enjoys like good music where the crackle and pop and the sounds of everything coming through, do you think the higher fidelity of the stuff is actually a good thing rather than wasted? Because I personally only listen to my Spotify through headphones or through a essentially Sonos speaker which isn't designed for high fidelity?
Yeah, right. Sonos is basically mono, right? There's a I forget her name. There's a famous producer, and there was an interview with her. She was sort of saying, so when she started, she was doing sort of house music and stuff, and they would spend a lot of time and effort making sure the mix was just really, really strong and oomphy on. And the way they did that was put it into mono, so both speakers are playing the same thing. And there's some tricks you got to do to kind of make it oomphy. But then everyone got into stereo and they wanted to have like kind of, sounds moving around and all that kind of stuff. And so it's a different thing. But now everyone's going back into that kind of mixing for mono mode because everyone's just got a Sonos speaker and it can do a bit of stereo, but not amazing. But I think it's sort of, I kind of feel like I try and avoid the sort of hi-fi nerdery, although I do quite like talking about it with people like Graham. But it's sort of, I think a good song goes through even if it's listened to on a really sort of tinny, bad speaker, right? And I think there's a danger, like drum and bass, for example. Sometimes it gets into a bit of a loop where that music is just about how good the production can be, as opposed to is it an interesting bass line or does it make you want to kind of wiggle your bum around or what have you. And so it's that sort of thing of like, I think there's, and there are certainly like bands that, bands that I quite like, some of them, where the sound is, yeah. There's a bit of Tron Lego, yeah. But yeah, there's certain bands that I like that, they're so noisy that it doesn't matter what you listen to it, right? Like, and actually, that's kind of part of the fun of it sometimes, I think. Like yeah, the IKEA Sonos thing kicks out quite a lot of bass, and so you sort of suddenly get a very different kind of experience to. I tend to listen to music when I'm not up here because I've got like a stereo and stuff over there. I tend to listen to music when I'm in the shower, and I have this little blue waterproof speaker, and I just have a sort of part of my kind of wake up routine is some music and having a shower kind of thing, and so like the audio quality doesn't matter at all in that scenario, right? And so you've got this kind of interesting, what's the purpose of the music? Like if you're going to listen to music when you're on a run or something, which I over the summer took up and I haven't done much over the winter. 1 second. No, that's not brick, that's wood. And it's loud. There's some people on the other side that are going to be listening to it. Ed, stop, seriously. It's not metal, it's wood. There's metal in there, yeah. But yeah, so you listen to it on like kind of earbuds as you're running around, and you obviously you wouldn't want it to sound really brilliant because you'd probably get hit by a car. Like you want that kind of yeah. And so there's that kind of weird thing of like, and I think it's that sort of thing. Like things like Spotify. I think things like Spotify, you quite often listen to music with less intent. Mm-hmm. Like it's going to put it on as background kind of thing, and that's fine. But then you've also got the sort of flip side of that is like actually like Mogwai's #1 selling album. It's nice to have a sit down and actually sort of explicitly choose to listen to a record, right, or a CD or an album stream, and so it's kind of doing the thing you need to do in the time and space you need to do it in, kind of. Yeah. Oh wow, levitation. Yeah. So it's that. I get joys of lockdown, right? But yeah, so it's that kind of finding. So like if you've got a really high end stereo and you can find the time to sit down and enjoy it, then all power to your elbow. But if you've got like a pair of crappy headphones and you want to listen to your favorite music, then there's nothing wrong with that either, is there? Right? Like,
I think I live my life in crappy headphones, so yes.
I need to get some new ones actually. My old noise cancelling ones have cancelled. Kind of fell apart.
I have upgraded to the Bluetooth version for that express reason because these are kind of dying.
Yeah, exactly. I need to get the ones that I got. They just all the cups are like flaking off, and you take them off, and you got like bits of leatherette in your beard. How's this? Yeah, go and ask Mum. Okay.
I'm gonna wait up here so I can wait.
Okay. Keep an eye out. Yeah. I was going to say at the beginning, like, there's a fair chance that one of my children will come in and send us all on slightly sideways kind of jolly. So
that's fine. There's a reason this is called Tech Off Topic. It's because off topic is pretty much the way it goes.
Yeah.
It's just a case of the zombie apocalypse has brought a whole new definition of what off topic means.
Yeah, my neighbour at the top of the road, part of the reason he bought his house is he figured it'd be good in a zombie apocalypse because it's kind of it's on the corner of a road, so you've got good sight lines in all directions. There's nice high walls, you can protect yourself from the zombie apocalypse. And then the pandemic kicked in, and I was like, "Yeah, how's that working out for you?" He's like, "It's not as good as in the zombie apocalypse." He's a doctor as well, so yeah.
I never thought I'd ever think of fish ponds and zombie apocalypse protection.
It's important, man. You know, we've all seen Shaun of the Dead. It could happen to you. You got red on you.
Oh God. All right, I'm gonna once again segue this using the Spotify conversation. Right, so not going to ask a lot about this because, to be brutally honest, the news has beaten the crap out of it with the royalty payments and stuff. Like, some of the reason in 2020 the music industry was up in arms. The DMCA requests everywhere to try and squeeze as much money out of online content, and artists getting the short end of the stick.
Yep.
Now, you started a side hustle at the beginning, like spring last year?
Summer. Yeah.
Summer. Right. Do you want to give the high level view of this? Because I'm pretty sure once we start on this topic, it's going to go tangential.
Yeah. Well, so like years ago, actually, there was a DRM format, and I can't remember the name of it, which is annoying, but it's something like Mantis or Manta or something like that. They had this idea where if you bought a record, it could come in the DRM thing, right? And then if you gave it to someone else, like let them have a copy, put it on Napster or whatever. It was Napster in those days. None of this torrent nonsense. Again, old. But yeah.
It's fine. It just means Lars Ulrich is never going to listen to this.
Did you see the thing with them on Twitch? So they were playing a gig on Twitch. I think part of like Twitch's, it might have been like Twitch's kind of conference or something like that.
Oh, the GlitchCon stuff.
Yeah, it was a legit thing, right? And so and they're sort of playing in their garage that they've got kind of set up in their massive studio. And then Twitch's DCMA protection stuff kicks in and overlays it with like some Nordic folk music that they've got the rights to. And so you got like kind of Metallica shredding away, and it's like over the top. It's brilliant, really funny.
Oh boy.
And it's like kind of, you know, slightly reap what you sow a bit, but anyway. But yeah, they so there's this DRM format where you were actually encouraged to share the file because it had embedded in it a way to pay the original creator, right? So if I gave it to you, you could then go and pay 50p to Fred who wrote the music, kind of thing, and it would then unlock it for you, and then you could give it to someone else, and it's sort of and I think there was some like I would get a bit of the money and Fred would get the majority of the money, and so there's a sort of pyramid scheme of DRM kind of thing. And me and some friends were kind of looking at that. This is like 2005, 6 kind of, maybe 2004. And we were looking at that and kind of had this idea of like, well, maybe we could do that, and didn't really go anywhere because we were too busy doing PhDs and drinking too much. But then fast forward to last year, and we a friend of mine, Matt Hamilton, who I think you didn't work with. I think like he started a bit after you.
Yeah.
But I think you need to meet. I think you're going with each other. I've known him since I've known like Mike Rhodes.
Just FYI, he is in the chat.
Oh, there he is. Hello, Matt. So I met. So there's a guy called Dan Fairs who might also be in the chat. You never know. I met Dan at Jelly, which was like this sort of
I remember those being pre-meetup social media-y things back in the day.
Yeah, they were kind of like these sort of, if you wanted to hot desk somewhere and not knew anyone and all that stuff. So I met him, Bristol University physics department, this old 1950s, 1960s part of the building, had this massive water tank in the top that was supposed to be like the sort of emergency water tank for Bristol. And they decided that they were going to get rid of it and put a data center in there, right? So they had to take out this 1950s cast iron water tank first that was full of dead pigeons and water, and then put this data center in. And so my office was basically directly underneath it, and I can attest that someone angle grinding a massive cast iron water tank is not conducive to a pleasant working experience. And so there was these Bristol Jelly things that popped up, and one of my friends spotted, and so we went and did that for a couple of days instead of having a guy angle grinding there.
I feel like there's a heavy metal joke in there, but
no, not at all. It was very painful, not at all pleasant. But yeah, so through Dan, I think I went out for a curry or something. Oh no, yeah, through Dan I went to EuroPython in Birmingham in 2007, 8, and while I was there, like getting the lanyards and stuff, I spotted Dan. I said, "Oh, hello, I know you. You're from Bristol and stuff." And he said, "Oh, hello, yeah, we're going for a curry later. Do you want to come along?" And so through Dan, I met Matt and Mike Rhodes, and so that's a little callback to earlier on. But yeah, so Matt, this is one of those stories where it's kind of gone tangential before it's even started. But yeah, so Matt sent me a message. He's into XRP, right? Cryptocurrency called XRP, and now works for XRP Ripple Labs. So he's doing amazing dev advocacy for them. He wasn't doing that at the time. He was working at IBM, and he sent me a message on a Saturday morning saying, "All right, Si, there's this thing called Grant for the Web. Mozilla's doing it with Coil, and you should apply for it and get them to pay for you to record some of your stupid bloopy music," which it's very kind of you to suggest such a thing. And so I was like, "Cool, yeah. When's the grant application got to be in?" It's like, "Oh, it's Monday morning or something like that, Monday evening." So this was Saturday, and so then I kind of like started scratching my brain and phoning around various friends and acquaintances, and just kind of pulled together this grant idea where the whole thing is around this thing called web monetization, right? So web monetization is this emerging W3 standard where you stick a meta tag in the top of your web page, and if your browser notices that you've got that tag in there, it'll start streaming micropayments to where you've pointed that thing to, right? And so the idea was to sort of make some music, record that. We've done that. That's getting mastered hopefully next week. And then make a web page to host that music with this web monetized stuff on. And then it's like, well, actually, the thing that's interesting with Spotify and SoundCloud and all those other sites is the network effect. Like the sort of, you've listened to this band, maybe you want to listen to that one as well, kind of thing. And so it's always actually, for this to be a useful thing, you've got to actually sort of start building a bit of a network. And so this idea for what became called Audiotarchy kind of formed, put the grant in, fully expecting it to be politely declined, and then started noodling around anyway. So my blog, I've got that sort of web monetized, and I've got a couple of posts on how that works and stuff. And then I think it's like mid-September or so, got a message saying, "Congratulations, you've got your grant." And it's like, oh crap, now I've got to go and do it. But yeah, so I've been building that since. Well, no, it's actually quite cool. So I'd already built quite a bit of it. Like kind of, I'd kind of done the POC sort of side of things just in my spare time over the summer, because lockdown, what are you going to do, kind of. But yeah, so got that done, and then with the grant, I've been able to pay for a design agency to sort of make it look pretty and functional and care about the UX and stuff, and built out the back end side of things in some rusty Python, and now we've started kind of signing up artists and stuff. So we've got about 20 folk on there at the moment, trying to get to 50 sort of in the next kind of month, paying the first 50 people 50 quid to sign up as a first 50 bands, 50 quid to sign up. And then part of that signing up is you get a Coil account, not Coil account, an Uphold account to get a payment wallet, ILP, interledger pointer, I think it's called. Matt can correct me if I'm wrong. And then it means that people can pay, or people pay Coil, which is this company. It's like they act as the subscription piece, and then you have your Coil browser plugin, and then Coil will stream money to who you're listening to, and it's kind of neat. It means that we don't have to touch money on Audiotarchy side of it. There's nothing there. You don't have to sign up to use it. You can pay if you've got Coil in your browser. You can pay someone to listen to their music, which is nice because it means that it can be like privacy first. Like I don't need to know. Like I don't have to judge that you listen to loads of K-pop music or what have you. I don't have to target ads at you to kind of fund the thing. You can just listen to music, which is quite neat. And yeah, it's kind of, it works. There's a guy tweeting yesterday who signed up, a guy called Musoid. He's sort of nice squelchy acid sort of breaks music, and he's like, yeah, my new favorite thing is watching my Bitcoin roll in on as people listen to the music on Audiotarchy.
Okay, so you've gone as decentralized as possible.
Yeah,
because you're actually following the wonderful crypto approach to it, where there is actual material being mined, produced elsewhere, or is it just the actual? How are you handling creating the hashes to then attach everything to?
No, so that doesn't happen.
Oh.
So what happens is essentially Coil kind of acts as like a subscription exchange kind of thing. So you pay them $5 a month, which is £4 in the Queen's own money. So you pay them $5 a month, and they kind of behind the scenes. So Coil, what's good about Coil is they don't talk about crypto at all, really, in their marketing stuff. It's very much kind of aimed at consumer use, right? And I think the crypto stuff, aside from addressing the kind of power consumption issues that certain coins have, like that's the other thing that it's got to, before it becomes a real like mainstream thing, it's got to like work out how do you have a consumer application of this sort of technology that like my mum could use, right? So Coil does that, and so you pay them $5 a month. They then behind the scenes are converting that into XRP. I think they're sitting on a fair war chest of XRP, and then the micropayments are done with XRP, and then the receiving end. So if you use Uphold, your XRP can be converted into Dodge. Like Mike Wallace he's on there, and he's got his stuff going in as Dogecoin because he thinks it's funny. And it is funny.
Of course, Wallace is going Dogecoin.
But yeah, so you can have that kind of nice sort of stream, and so there's not the music that we're streaming is not cryptographically signed or locked or anything like that. There's none of that. It's just straight up high quality MP3s, and then a bit of the server's got some smarts in it to validate that you've actually paid to listen and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Oh, so literally,
so it's not mining.
The XRP, the currency, is actually just being used as a self-healing record of transaction rather than anything else.
Yeah, it's just being used as a thing for exchange, which is kind of what it's designed for, right? XRP's got a slightly different approach to Bitcoins. Yeah, it's really neat. It's cool. And like the thing that's happening gradually, this web monetization thing, like Mozilla's obviously interested in it because it sort of solves that original sin of the internet, right? Like we've had this great idea called the internet, we don't know how we're going to pay for it yet. Oh, let me introduce surveillance capitalism. That kind of stuff's not so great, right? But so it gives you a way of solving that kind of problem. And gradually sort of people are kind of applying it and picking it up. So there's a site called Cinnamon, cinnamon.video, and they're kind of like a YouTube-esque thing that if you put your content on there, it's web monetized, and you get paid for people watching your thing. So if you stuck this amazing video up, then you'd see like some payment trickle in. And then I think Condé Nast, I don't know if it's like a formal thing or if they've got like a rogue developer who just shoved the personal ILP header in. But like if you go to like Pitchfork or other Condé Nast publications and you've got the plugin, you'll start seeing it's doing its thing, and they're streaming money. And I think they sort of hide advertising when that happens, kind of thing. So it's kind of this sort of thing where it's kind of thing where it's sort of gradually picking up a bit of becoming a bit more normal, I think, and it's definitely very early days. Like you can kind of do some maths based on various bits of information out there, and it's like there aren't millions or billions of people subscribed to Coil yet, but you can kind of see that this or something like this becomes a way that some of those kind of challenges get solved, right?
Actually, Matt has a nice point here, which is the nice thing about XRP, the cryptocurrency used by Coil, is that it doesn't use proof of work, so it doesn't have insane energy consumption. So we don't have to worry about the people going, it's just proliferating people buying graphics cards and using more energy than an entire city.
Yeah, there's so Matt Lawyer, Ripple did some. I think they got a university to do some nice research, and XRP has a smaller carbon footprint, larger one than Visa, MasterCard, but a smaller one than doing cash. And it's things like that where, again, like going back to the earlier part of the call, like money's weird, right? And actually, if you think about like smelting coins, moving large amounts of coinage around, making notes, all that kind of stuff, that's quite an energy intensive thing.
Ironically, I'm living in an old mint.
Hey, nice. Peppermint or strawberry?
No, the Birmingham Royal Mint.
Oh, cool, nice. Was there any cash left behind?
No, just a giant flipping chimney that's outside of my living room.
Nice. Yeah, so it's kind of this. It's one of those things where it feels like the technology, like it's probably not quite there in terms of adoption, but it could be, right?
Hang on, this is the description of the entire internet.
I think people will discuss whether or not it was a good idea, but I'm pretty sure the internet is kind of now mass adopted.
Well, it's mass adopted, but you know for a fact that somewhere underneath the hood is an old x86 IBM machine. Yeah, DNS server where there's actually a tape machine running still attached to it.
Tape is amazing, high density, doesn't get wrong with it. You get robots as well. Yeah, no, for sure. But it's sort of interesting thing where like you could see, in a few years' time or a few iterations of the product, it'll become a real thing. And it's nice to sort of be playing around with it as a sort of side thing, like a evenings and weekends kind of stuff. And it's been good. Like this stuff, like I hadn't done any front type dev. I didn't do that much of it for quite a while, but like I hadn't done any for 5-6 years maybe. And some people would say that's a good thing. But like it's kind of interesting to see how far like JavaScript or ECMA script has come along as a language, and like the tooling around like things like Figma and XD. I hadn't sitting there like Dreamweaver was badass back in the day, and it's actually kind of cool that you've got those kind of tools that are letting you do kind of like bridging that gap between design and development in a really kind of effective fashion. And so it's been cool to be able to kind of in a non-critical path kind of way, kind of dust off some of those kind of skills and muscles and what have you.
I must admit, I am currently just looking at a Git repo for a pure web component implementation of it.
Yeah,
because I'm curious about, can I just slap this inside of some of the work I'm doing?
Yeah, and so like Coil, so Coil recommend that you install their browser plugin, right? But they also give out OAuth tokens. So one of the things I hopefully I'm going to do this weekend, children permitting, is implement it so that you can log into your Coil account and send payment from within AudioTalkie, because there is a browser called Puma that runs on mobile, and that works most of the time. But there are there's a service called vanilla.so, and there's a web monetisation.org. Both have a kind of payment verification thing. So the client knows a secret about the thing, and so that you can share that secret back through to you basically stream your payment through their verifier, and so the web client gets a receipt from the thing, and then you can, on the server side, you send that receipt to the server, and then the server can talk to the verification service. And so I can tell whether or not someone's not just have they got the browser plugged in, but have they actually got it turned on and they're actually streaming payment. And so that's kind of neat, but it seems like Puma gets confused when you're doing that, it gets upset. So, and I haven't been able to work out why. But it's so being able to kind of put it, and people don't want to install another browser on their phone, right? Like, again, it's that sort of, how does this become a thing that's kind of mainstream and easy to use? And I think having a thing that says click here to log in with Coil and pay Grand Falloon some money, for example, is kind of.
There's also the fact that the wonderful of the internet. How do I put this? Once upon a time, Internet Explorer was the bastard child, and now Safari is the bastard child. And everybody has their preference. There's a whole army of people on Mac who will swear by Safari being exactly how they want, even though they don't follow all the W3C standards as written letter.
Did I see somewhere that they're moving it to using... It's Chrome now, isn't it, under the hood?
It's WebKit under the hood with... the Chrome engine stuff, yeah, but they're still not implementing the full W3C spec because Apple reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an interesting thing there where you've got like the specs of things and what you can do on the web changes so rapidly. Front end web development is about 1 million times better than it was when I was writing web pages in 1995. Right?
You were pre jQuery. I can't even imagine those dark times.
But the thing that's kind of nice, so the AudioTalkie site doesn't use any jQuery, obviously. It doesn't use React. It's using Pico app, which is kind of quite lightweight, neat sort of thing. And it so most of the code is like kind of vanilla ECMA, and actually like it's quite a nice language now. Like it and actually amusingly, there's stuff I remember writing when I was 15 or 16 that you kind of end up writing again, right? Like window dot. Yeah, it's kind of fun.
I'm actually just looking at the AudioTalkie site and going, this is also actually quite performant.
Yeah, it's an SPA using router.js. It's all quite small backends.
Except somebody has not bothered to set up their routing correctly.
Oh, which one broke? Send me a link.
Oh, no, it's not that. It's the fact that you're using the horrible, non-shareable routing paths, like the question mark 24, not question mark.
Oh, no, that's because currently, so that the site goes live, will go live on Monday. And so currently it's behind audiotalkie.com/$/.
You do know that that's actually exposed to Google already. So good luck with the SEO value there.
Yeah, no, it's sort of one of those things where, it's kind of public beta, but not, I think. The dollar confuses certain browsers substantially, and others don't care.
Yeah. Before we actually started streaming this, you did actually mention the fact that you were like looking into open sourcing this, some of this stuff. Like, you're actually one of the people who helped push me between you, Wallace, Tom, Mike, and Reese, push me into doing more of the work I did just as open source code. Even if it's shite, ship it as open source. I think was the opinion that was what Tom told me to do at one point. Was like, it's just better to release it to the world.
Yeah. I think code is ideas, right? That's kind of formulated, and I think ideas are better when you share them and talk them through. And most open source code, like there's an interesting balance between like open source and community, right? And I think most open source code has no community around it at all, because it's hard. That's the hard bit. Like writing 10,000 lines of nonsense is easy, but like maintaining kind of a steady flow of contribution and making sure that people don't kind of upset one another or what have you, that's where the hard work is. And but yeah, I think there's sort of, in audio-talkie there's some novel bits and pieces, but there's nothing that sort of someone with half a brain can work out themselves. So you may as well share stuff, and then if people can go and say, actually, you could do it better this way, or what about this use case, like, then that's a good thing to kind of include. And I think in general, the more viewpoints you get on something, like there's definitely a skill in navigating between them, but the more sort of input you can have on a design or on a bit of software, the better. You do sometimes have to, like, going back to the sort of Bezos thing of make a decision at 60% kind of thing. You do sometimes have to go, thanks, I'm going to ignore all of that. I'm going to do it this way. But also, like, sometimes you'll, like Cleto, who we used to work with, who's now back in Spain. I loved having him review my code. Like, it was an absolute privilege to have him review my code, because he would make it substantially better every time. And it'd be little things, but like, something that takes a 7-line function and turns it into a 3-line function. And it's actually more legible as a result as well. It's not like one of these things where kind of I've mushed everything together into some really oblique kind of, nested craziness. It's like, actually, you could do it this way and it's going to work better and more efficient and easier to read. It's like, that is a lovely thing. And the more kind of stuff you get like that, and it's one of those things where I think if you're writing something, your brain is too engaged in the writing of it that you can't be objective and review it. Like the music that we recorded, same kind of, but different. Like we recorded it, we finished the sort of final edits last week, and I've like not listened to it all week, and I'm going to spend some time at the weekend listening to it and just kind of go, actually, that one's fine or that one's not fine, and we need to change that in this way.
Isn't that usually why you have somebody else do the audio engineering to the work you produce?
Yeah. Well, the producer, right? Yeah. So we work with a guy called Ali Chant, who's done a lot of that. But there's an element of like, we're not a Stock Aitken and Waterman pop band, right? Like we're gonna, it's got to be our stuff. Like, it's all improvised, which kind of makes it a bit nuts anyway. But so it's got to be that kind of thing of like, well, actually, it's a dialogue between, he's got ideas and input, and like there's technical pieces where like this didn't work, or that's out of time, or this is not tuned enough, or alternatively it's out of tune but it sounds cool, let's keep it, kind of thing. But then there's a sort of like the actual kind of, well, what do we want this structure to sort of be? That's sort of a thing that he's part of the discussion, but it's sort of me and the guy I play with, Ian. We've got to kind of conclude, at least, right?
I have actually just gone through the audio-talkie site, and the reason the first thing I noticed, I recognize that Blue Yeti.
Yeah.
So you are literally dog fooding your own stuff here as well, like audio production, dog fooding, actual web monetization and building, dog fooding, open sourcing your own code. You're literally the only person I can think of right now that every aspect of the thing they're involved with, they are completely dog fooding.
I don't know. You should, right? Like you should, like it's one of those things like we're building some bits for EDB, and it's like, well, we've got to use Postgres here. Like we could use something else, but we could stick MySQL in, but I think that would be kind of terrible. There's that thing where, and it's also that trick of knowing what's the thanks. There's also that thing of knowing what the right tool for the job is, right? Like you don't want a dog food. Like if you're putting, well, I used to say like, you don't use a hammer to screw in a nail, and it's like, yeah. And then my friend pointed out that you can just smack them in. It works just as well. So, oh, thanks, Tony. But yeah, I mean, I think it's that thing of, I think we certainly in cloud, there were some times when we did things in Couch that we should have probably used Postgres or Redis or another store for, and then on the flip side, there were probably some places where we should have made more of a deal of the fact that we'd Cloud was running on cloud and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think it's if it's an appropriate technology to use, then you should use it. My son's being a chimpanzee downstairs. I'm just going to shut the door.
It's nice to know the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah. It's going to be, teenage years going to be dreadful.
I'm glad I live in a different city at this point in time. Then.
He's
loud noises.
I was when he was before he was born. Yeah, I kind of wanted to have him called Lucifer, but that wasn't allowed. But actually, it kind of probably bit me in the bum, that one. Yes, what's up?
When are you finished?
In a little bit, probably about another 5-10 minutes. I don't know. How many more questions you got, Mike?
I don't have any more questions. We've already gone quite off tangent, and I've asked a lot of things, and you have said a lot of stuff. And I also know that you have some important stuff to do this afternoon, so it's up to you, sir.
Yeah, that's probably a good point, actually. I've got to talk to some lawyers in a little bit.
Yeah, but... Okay, right. Now, just make sure I do this correctly. Do you want to spill anything? Because, technically we're here during the 9 to 5 part of the day. You may want to actually do the whole company self-promotion piece.
Today is Wellness Friday. So EDB does this thing where every third Friday you have to yourself to do...
Oh, lucky duck.
It's fantastic. But we are hiring in EDB. So if you're writing Go or Python... or React front-end stuff, doing things with Cube, interested in contributing to Postgres, then we'd be very interested to hear from you. And if you go to enterprisedb.com/careers, I think it is, there's a link there that will show you all the kind of open roles. Some of them
sure put a link to that in the description, shall I?
Yeah. Some of them you'll be working with me, so forewarned is forearmed.
He says that as a bad thing. I say it's a very good thing because he was my boss for 4 or 5 months before I got handed over to somebody else. Hot potato.
Yeah. So we're doing that. If you're interested in those kind of things, there's a bunch of roles open there. Audiotalkie, we're going to launch it on Monday. At Mozfest. If you're not going to Mozfest, you should. It's pay what you want for a ticket, all virtual. It's running over like 2 weeks or 12 days, I think it is this year. If you get a ticket, you get a free month-long Coil pass, so you can kind of monkey around with the web monetization stuff for free, even though it's $5 when you shouldn't break your bank. The amount of coffee you drink just saves you one coffee and then you're sorted. And then if you're in a band making interesting music, then reach out on Audiotalkie as well. You can get the things on there. EDB's fun place to work at the moment. Growing really quickly. If you need a Postgres, we can probably help you with that. Things like Wellness Fridays is a nice perk as well. So that's probably enough of a sales pitch. I'm rubbish at sales.
It was a sales pitch, and it's all good. Thank you very much for allowing me to keep your attention for over an hour. It's been great catching up with you, and two, I completely forgot how tangential you are in conversation anyway. You don't need any assistance to go off topic. You do it.
My ideas get caught in my hair and they kind of spin around and then they come out the back.
I completely forgot about this because this would be a normal conversation when I'd go for pizza with you.
Right.
And it would be, we're going to have a nice little catch up, and the conversation would go completely sideways.
Yeah. But I think that's fun, right? Like, I don't want to have linear conversations. I want to have kind of random ones and stumble over weird ideas, right?
You do realize people are going to worry about you having dementia when you don't have dementia because it's just going to be tangential when you're old and grey.
I am already old and grey. I was thinking this morning, I can't remember where I put things down old because I had a water bottle and I put it down somewhere and I was like, where the hell is this big black water bottle? Couldn't find it. I did find it later, like an hour later. So yeah.
No worries. Well, thank you very much, and I'll speak to you all later.
Yeah, lovely to talk to you, Mike. Speak soon.